beautiful Wednesday morning, and this is Dialogue Box on Blossom Nigeria. We thank God for how things are going. We know that definitely, like we have said, and we are still saying, that Nigeria is improving, getting better, and you are a major contributor to making that change. So this morning, we will continue with what we've been talking about on the education sector, talking about how the government has been able to bring up some mandates, a mandate on the reopening of schools, and different reactions greeting that particular announcement. And as a continuation, we still have more facts that are emerging. So this morning we'll be looking at more angles of that reopening of schools as has been instructed by the federal government, and the fact that a lot of misinformation is out there. So we are going to be reviewing the misinformation, what is the way forward, and what can be done to be more effective with instructions and mandates that the federal government is giving, and even the states, how they too can work in line with the uniform scheme that the federal government is trying to give to every state. Or is it a situation where every state is free to just run its own program according to its own schedule and structure? So we are going to be looking at all of that this morning, and we'll need you to send in your comments, your suggestions on how we can make the system even more effective for the good of the nation. So before we go fully into that discussion, let's look at some news updates, and we'll also use it as an opportunity to address one or two issues. First of all, we have it that, just a second, we have it that the exoneration of the African Development Bank President, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, by an independent review panel set up to investigate allegations of ethical wrongdoings leveled against him, is a welcome development which paves the way. Just a second. Which paves the way. Just a minute. Okay, which paves the way for his second term as president of the bank. Vice presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Mr. Peter Obi, during his statement, he stated that in his reaction to the news of Adesina's vindication, stated that the committee led by Mary Robinson, the former president of the Republic of Ireland and former United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, is a welcome development. So he saw it as a very good one from that investigative panel headed by Mary Robinson, the former president of the Republic of Ireland. So with that, the President Muhammadu Buhari has also rejoiced with President of the African Development Bank, AFDB, that's Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, on the clearing of all the allegations that have been leveled against him by an anonymous group. And that was like a further validation of his competence and integrity to lead the institution. So that's also a very excited President Muhammadu Buhari, who has also expressed his joy and his excitement over the clearing of the AFDB President, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina. Then we have it that the Accident Investigation Bureau, the AIB, released the final report on the crash of a Caverton helicopter conveying the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo and 11 other politicians in Kaba, Kogi State on February 2nd, 2019, and no lives were lost in the mishap. So despite the fact that no lives were lost, an investigative panel has been looking into it, and they've released the report. So according to the report, in a webinar, the commissioner and the chief executive officer of the AIB, Akin Olateru, said one of the reasons for that led to the crash was the inappropriate landing technique, coupled with non-adherence to company procedures for known anticipated brownout conditions during landing, which or these were causative factors for the mishap. He also listed lack of risk assessment, limited landing site preparation and planning prior to commencement of the flight by the captain, helicopters, and the crew. So in addition to all of this, the helicopter landed hard and rolled over on its side. So these are not a very welcome development, and based on the report of the cause for the crash or of the crash simply means that a lot more needs to be done to pay more attention to the detailed checks and balances, and to ensure that every of such maybe helicopter or even an airplane, the risk assessment should be uh, well rated, and everything should be on the excellent condition before such will move. And we thank God that no lives were lost, but even then, this is a lesson point for us as a nation, so that we won't have a repeat of this kind of event again, or incident rather. Then we also have the small and medium-sized businesses, as the SMEs, have been urged to leverage technology tools to reduce the impact of the COVID-19 on their businesses. So this is as a result of the need to embrace such tools as were discussed at the unveiling of CONET, a wholly indigenous business collaboration tool that will help SMEs adapt to the new world of technology instigated even by the COVID-19 pandemic. Because as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of businesses are trying to learn how to function on the digital angle, and how to even hold meetings digitally, not having to wait for people to come and meet them wherever they are. So CONET, which is owned by a 21st century Nigerian, is Nigeria's first owned collaboration tool and a technology suite that empowers individuals, SMEs, startup businesses to become more productive online. So its features include, but not limited to, voice, video, live chat, file sharing with brand customization. So that's a good one coming from Nigeria. That's Nigeria's first owned collaboration tool in the digital world. So that's a welcome development. Then also, we also have that a very good but very is a warning sign that everyone must adhere to, from the state government to the federal government. So even though it's a good one that is coming now, simply means that a lot of implementation of whatever signals that are coming from this agency has to be put into full use. We have it that massive floods will sweep through many parts of the country between September and October. So a federal government agency has warned. The Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency, NISA, which gave the red alert, advised residents who are living in flood-prone areas to begin relocation immediately, because heavy rains will precipitate the flooding, leading to destruction of properties and likely loss of lives. So according to the Director General of the agency, Mr. Clement Nze, he explained that Lagos State, Rivers, Delta, Edo, and Kogi State are on top of the list of states to witness major flooding. So all the local government areas in Lagos State, except Ekpe and many parts of Ogun State, will be badly affected. That's according to the agency. So the NISA, they have also warned governors of all these states, and they've been advised to begin an immediate evacuation of residents living in areas that are likely going to be affected. So we also use this as a means of drawing people's attention to these warnings. They should not be disregarded, they should not be ignored, and a lot more should be done to ensure that if like a full implementation of whatever the agency has advised should be put in place, especially for those who are living in flood-prone areas, erosion sites, and the rest. So they are not the right thing. And even the agency has warned that some buildings are even built on erosion paths and the flood-prone areas. So such should be discouraged. And for areas like this, most of them should start immediate plans on relocation before the September and the October timeline given by the agency. Then we have a very interesting one coming from the sports sector, but this time around on a different angle. that the Super Eagles duo of Victor Osimhen and Samuel Chukwueze, they will observe another 14 days in isolation following their return to the country on Sunday. So both players arrived Nigeria from Europe aboard a private jet, and they were immediately moved to one of the isolation centers in Lagos. So competent sources hinted that the players were in the country to sort out some personal issues, but they will have to wait for a period of 14 days to reunite with their families. So it was disclosed that the Nigerian immigration, on arrival at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, seized their international passports of these players. So Osimhen is undergoing a third isolation, a kind of a third isolation experience since the COVID-19 pandemic broke out in the month of March. He was isolated on his return for his father's burial and was also quarantined when he returned to France to regroup it with his club. So it's interesting in the sense that this guy has gone through a lot of isolation, quarantining, and different ways of separating him from maybe family members or wherever he's traveling to. So despite the fact that he came in with a private jet and everything, immigration still seized his passport and said he has to be isolated for another 14 days. So we just want to be sure that these are being done with the right intention, and we believe that for such, maybe they can check him and see if he's not prone to any form of COVID-19, they can let him go instead of holding him for another 14 days after he came into the country for one reason or the other. So we believe that a lot more should be done to look into that case to be very sure that it's not just what we are hearing, and a lot more is done to resolve it with immediate effect. All right, so this is Dialogue Box on Blossom Nigeria. We've been giving you a lot of updates, but we believe that much more is out there. We just want to give you some of these ones because we know that they pertain to what we are doing, and it's a means for us to also address the government in areas we think they should improve or do better, or even commend them like we have done in some cases. But for today, like we said, we are discussing the reopening of schools from the angle of the mixed information that keeps coming from different areas. So while you are giving us your feedback, we'll quickly give you a background that mixed information has characterized the government's decision to reopen schools. The new update from Lagos and Ogun State is that only students in senior secondary school, that's SS3, will resume to sit for the West African Senior School Certificate Examinations, WASSCE. And you know that this is different from the previous information that came out, that both the students from the JSS3 and the SS3 are the ones to resume. Now another information is coming that it's only students from SS3 that are to resume. And in addition to this, in Oyo State, schools have also reopened. So Oyo is like going ahead of the government's directive and carrying out its own plans for the education sector, which is not a very good one, even though they may have some very good reasons why they are doing what they are doing, but we know that they ought to also follow the uniform plan of the federal government in this regard. So your state has also gone ahead to reopen their schools against the instruction of the Federal Ministry of Education. So then we have it that let's give you a little more updates on this. Said, just want to give you this very, very key fact, that though the federal government on Monday said that examination will begin on August 17, and August 4 is when the schools are supposed to resume so that pupils can revise for 2 weeks. We even had a caller that said yesterday that no matter what, even though schools, it's good for them to resume on August 4th, but he was of the opinion that 2 weeks was not sufficient for the students to prepare for examination. So he said the government should give them more time so that they can actually imbibe what they are being taught and do effective revisions. So from this angle, we also have that the Lagos State Commissioners Commissioner for Education, Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo, and the Special Advisor to the Ogun State Governor on Education, Mrs. Ronke Soyombo said that schools in their state will only resume for senior secondary school students, that's SS3 students. So this is also a deviation from what the federal government said. Federal government said JSS3 and SS3, but Lagos and Ogun State said they are only going to resume for SS3 students. Then we also have it that in Ekiti State, the Ekiti Commissioner for Education, Mrs. Folusho Daramola, said SS3 students would resume, but that the state had not decided on whether junior secondary school 3, that's JSS3 students, would also return. So that means Ekiti State is still in the decision process. Are they to resume? Are they not to resume? So the question is, what is the plan of the federal government for the education sector? And why is it that different states are coming up with their plans? We have the Director of Press and Public Relations for the Federal Ministry of Education, Mr. Ben Gong, who said that the Presidential Task Force, PTF, would announce on Thursday whether JSS3 students would resume or not. So it's like even from the federal angle, they are still not too sure of who and who is to resume. So a lot more is happening with the different misinformation out there. So it's now like, what is happening and what are the most effective means of making things work and work better so that the education sector will not be negatively affected as a result of the post-COVID-19 pandemic. So whatever needs to be done, there should be a form of uniformity. And okay, we have a call coming in right now. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. You are welcome. Who is on the line?
This is Kendra Mokolo.
Okay, you are welcome. What's your take on what we are discussing this morning? Schools are reopening. The federal government is saying their students are to resume on August 4th. But some states are still saying that only SS3 students are to resume. JSS3 students are not to resume. So there seems to be a lot of misinformation out there. What is your own opinion about the resumption of schools in the first place?
First of all, I am not in support of some categories of people opening up that some sections of students reopening while the others stay at home.
Okay.
I know they are trying to put some focus on these terminal classes.
Okay.
Because it's a major step to the next level. Like primary 6 should be going to JSS1, JSS3 should be going to SS3, and they have major exams they need to write. I fully understand that.
Yeah.
The other students are also part of the educational system, and they should also be considered. So my own opinion is, if government wants to allow some people to come into the school, they should allow every other person, but in a well-arranged and planned manner.
Okay.
When I say in a well-arranged and planned manner, like now, if you can permit some people to come into school and you want to put in all the social distancing and washing of hands and every other thing, then we can as well adopt those procedures for the other students to also resume school.
Yeah.
But how do we go about that? My own suggestion to the government is they should resume the school in sections. In the sense that, okay, a school has maybe primary 1 to primary 6.
Yeah.
The younger classes can resume maybe from Monday to maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday. When the older ones, maybe the Thursday, Tuesday, Thursday. So they can actually accommodate everybody to be in school.
Okay.
It's just that this system is to be a bit slower because now they are not taking the full day like they used to, like Monday to Friday. So they can actually segment the resumption, but it will affect every other classes except these seminar classes that they are focusing on right now, because everybody is still part of the educational system. So if this is done, like now, from Monday, Wednesday, Friday, some students resume, then you can carry out the social distancing, let them spread out to the entire school. So if the whole school was supposed to occupy, maybe a class was supposed to occupy just one class, maybe 16 people in a class, you cannot separate them to 8 people in one class, while 8 go to the next class. Then they still assume, carry out all the social social distancing and washing our hands. And the educational staff will be going on, but just like it might be slower. Going on, instead of everybody sitting down at home and focus on only the seminar classes.
Okay.
The seminar classes are out. I don't know how to prepare the next session to occupy that space. So we are all there revolving around the circle if you focus on some people and leave the others. So that is my take.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that means they should look at everybody as a holistic, like a holistic plan, not just some because they are in the terminal classes.
Yes.
And they should
look at everybody.
Yes, and they should have a more organized plan that can be followed by, okay.
That can cover up for every student so that everybody can participate because even these children at home, you are making their brain redundant. And there's no special plan that you have put in place to carry everyone along. Some students are taking online classes, while some are not able to afford, some are home, some are being charged. You know, some are moving ahead in online class, while some are home doing nothing. So this thing should be well planned so that all students can benefit from it, because not all things are equal.
Okay.
What that a rich man can as well bring someone to teach them online and they pay whatever ridiculous amount they have. Whereas a poor man does not have that.
They don't have
they
that.
don't have a good phone to even access the online classes because their parents cannot afford it. So in order to cover up for those classes, we need to the government needs to come up with a more structured plan that can cover up for everyone. The process might be slower because what you should achieve maybe in 1 month, it might take you 3 months, but at least something is going on. The children are not just staying at home doing nothing.
All right. Thank you so much, Mrs. Kendra. And that's a good one coming from you and a good suggestion stating that every student is important. So not just the terminal classes, but all of them should be planned for. That's her take, that the government should plan for every one of them, and they should have a more organized plan that will carry everybody along and will also help the students to maximize what they have. Because right now, like she said, a lot are still just redundant, doing nothing. While some may be able to afford maybe online classes, but not everybody may be doing that right now. So it's as if keeping the students at home for too long can even negatively affect them. So coming from that angle, we know that the government still has a lot to do in unifying the plans, and according to her, planning for every class, not just for the terminal classes. Because now, apart from the GSS3 and the SS3 students, what about the others? What is the plan? Nothing much has been said by the government as at now. So what should be the way forward for that? Then for now, we still have the issue of SS3 should resume, and in some most cases, we are still hearing some states saying that only SS3 should resume, GSS3 should stay back. They are still trying to decide. Ekiti is trying to decide. Meanwhile, Oyo State has gone ahead to resume fully. So we are wondering what exactly is at stake here, and what is the federal government doing about this? Are we saying that every school, or rather every state, has its own plan, its own blueprint for the education sector, and should be able to run independently? If that is the case, then fine. Every state will just work with that mindset that they are running their own scheme, and they don't need to wait for the federal government to give them any directive or any mandate. But as it is right now, the mandate is coming, which is expected to be followed, but in some cases, some states are not even following, and they are not even showing any sign that they are willing to follow. So what is the government doing about this to bring some form of uniformity to the system, and, like we have also noted, also bring about a plan that can cover every student, every one of them, a holistic plan, a more organized plan? So you can call us 09052525107. Hello, we have another call here. Good morning.
Good morning, ma.
Who is on the line?
This is Mrs. Ine on the line.
All right, Mrs. Ine, you are welcome to Dialogue Box on Blossom Nigeria. So what's your take?
In fact, if we look at the situation on ground.
Yeah?
If we look at the situation on ground,
yes,
anyone will feel, let's take discussion, let's think about life policy. But to see, I want to say the government has been trying,
Okay.
In Lagos State, and we are seeing how the data is going up every now and then.
Okay.
And we are praying that the thing comes down. But to see this for the YX students, my take is that they should allow the children write their exam.
Okay.
So we have Oyo State that have started just far. And till now, I don't think their figures are skyrocketed that much. Though I know it's going high, but not as much as expected. That okay, they resume school, and these children they are contracting this COVID-19 of 18.
Hello? 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 Okay, it's like the line shipped off. Are we back? Hello? Hello? Okay, so maybe we lost that line and the call rather, and we might get her to call back. So she's already saying that even though the government is trying, but she thinks that those that are in the senior secondary school, that's the senior SS3 students, should be allowed to write their WASSCE exam, that's West African Senior School Certificate Examinations, so that it will not disturb maybe the general plan that goes across the West African. Okay, you are back. Thank you so much for calling. All right, so as you were saying.
I wanted my point to be driven home because it has to do with the children.
Yeah.
I mean, if they've been at home, I know they've been at home, one way or the other, they must have been studying, following up on their academics.
Yes.
So if they should allow them to resume that for Lagos State, because I know other states are still saying no to whatever measures. Oyo State already started.
Yeah.
And at least one way or the other, I know children are being occupied instead of just being at home. We've been at home, we don't know when this will be over, everyone's just speculating. But that will just say that children can go back and write their exam, and thereafter, all necessary precautions should be on ground.
Okay.
It should make everything available.
What about this angle of the JSS3 students that were supposed to resume alongside the SS3? We are now hearing that in Lagos and Ogun State, they are saying only the SS3 should resume, JSS3 should stay back.
I was actually thinking SS3 and JSS3 will resume because if you look at most of the government schools, they have their JSS block different from their SS school.
Yeah.
Big enough. So they have the old JSS school, the junior school for the old JSS3, and the old of the senior school for the SS3. I think it's enough space. They have enough space to handle them.
Okay.
Because the junior school teachers don't have anything to do with the senior school teachers if the SS3 should resume.
Okay, so there's nothing wrong if both the JSS3 and the SS3 resume.
I don't think anything is wrong if the terminal exam people resume school to write their exam.
Okay, okay, all right. Then a final one before we let you go, Mrs. Inne. You seem to have some very good information about the education sector. We had a caller yesterday that told us that we should let the government know that everything about resumption is good, but 2 weeks is not enough for students to prepare for examination. Do you share that opinion?
I don't. Because before now, some schools, the government gave directive that people could do online lessons.
Okay.
And to an extent, some schools started. Government could not even be private now because we know the private, they have what it takes for them to prepare themselves. They've been on it.
Okay.
They've been doing all of that. Some of the government schools have been online on the online lessons for a while. Some of them are even almost covering up their curriculum for the subject.
Okay.
And as a team, the children know that they are about to write the terminal exam. They know that they are all aware about what to do. So they are prepared. They already have that prepared mindset towards it. So if they have to resume now, I don't think 2 weeks to brush them up, I don't think it's too small because already something they do. So just be sure you'll be having with them.
Okay. All right. Okay.
That's my thing.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Gladys. We appreciate your call. All right, we would have asked you a little more, but let's let you go now. Maybe we'll have you as a live guest very soon. Thank you so much. All right. So, thank you. Okay. All right. So that was Mrs. Gladys Inne that just called, and she has given us her own opinion. She thinks that everything should still work as planned, that the SS3 and the GSS3 students can still resume together because, like she said, most of them even they are in different facilities. Let's use that word, as in their buildings are different. The GSS building is different from the SS building. So there's no form of, they are not crisscrossing, and they are not really crossing paths to that extent. So there's no need stopping the GSS3 from resumption and asking only the SS3 students to resume. So she's of the opinion that they can resume, and there will be no challenge from that angle. Then also the aspect of 2 weeks for preparation for the examination, according to her, is sufficient, because it is something that some schools have been doing, maybe with the online lessons that government gave them the mandates and the directive to do, but not all schools did. So that's a very interesting side, that according to our caller yesterday, he thinks that no matter what, the 2 weeks is not sufficient, but she thinks it's sufficient, because she is assuming that every other school, even the private schools, should have been doing some form of private online lessons or the other, and that will give the students a prepared mindset. So we hope the government will look very closely into these issues and see how to come about with a very strong decision that can cover everywhere, every state, and every state government should be able to work with it, so that in the future we'll not have a situation whereby this state program is different from this other state. This one is resuming in let's say September, this other one is resuming in July, and there's a little conflict of arrangement, because right now we are still operating the federal system of government from the angle in which we have been doing it. So we think more should be done. The Ministry of Education should do more regulation and monitoring to see to it that every directive is being carried out. And even if any state has any reason to go against the directive, they should have strong enough reasons that can be backed up by the federal government, so that it will not look as if they are standing alone. So that's a very strong one. And like we have also said, SS3 and GSS3 students can resume together. There's no need asking one set to stay back and the other set to prepare for resumption, because we've already prepared the minds of even the GSS3 students to resume on the August 4th. So there's no need asking them to stay back. And like one of our callers also said, a very, very strong holistic plan, just a second, okay? A very strong holistic plan that the government should also put in place. All right, we have some comments here. Let's just quickly look at some of them before we round off. We have Joy Chinedu Samuel says, good morning, Blossom Nigeria. Thank you so much, and good morning to you too. Then we have Chiamaka Kupoluyi that says, were the schools locked down during Ebola crisis, the schools should reopen and appropriate measures should be taken. By the way, who has sincerely lost a child to COVID? That's the question Chiamaka is asking. She says that this will surely end. This fiasco will end. Then Joy Chinedu Samuel says, just a second. She says, schools should resume, but I'm not in support of students going straight to write exams. You won't blame Oyo State, who went ahead to resume because they were tired of the politics government was playing. So I applaud Oyo State for going ahead to resume school. So that's according to Joy Chinedu Samuel, that the school should resume, but she's not in support of students going straight to write exams. In other words, they should be given more time to prepare. Then Chiamaka Kupoluyi sent a link that they should take a leaf from. So maybe we can put it on our Facebook page later on in the day. Then we have an opinion from Vera Okiogene that says, my opinion is that schools should resume. Other sectors are gradually opening. Schools shouldn't be left out. They should, or rather they will eventually be opened. Thanks. So with all that we have heard this morning, and much more that will come in later in the day, simply means that definitely parents and different interested stakeholders are really bent. They want to see the schools resume, but everything should be put in place so that it will not just be hurrying students to resume, hurrying them to write exams, and getting them to just maybe fit into a system that they are still trying to get used to because of all the safety measures that have been asked to be included in the resumption plans. And as we do all of this, we believe that, like we said earlier, the federal government should look into a more uniform plan that can be followed by every state. And even if any state has any reason to implement a plan that is different from that of the federal government, they should have strong enough reasons and the federal government should approve. And with time, everything should still fit into that uniform calendar that schools across the nation have been operating. COVID-19 should not spoil it, and everything should still work well. All right, so education for us is a must and it must move forward. So with these points that we have made this morning, we believe that everyone has something to take home, and even the government should look at their decisions critically. And even with the meeting that they hope to have tomorrow, they can also raise up some of these issues and come up with stronger plans that can be well executed. Thank you so much for staying with us on Dialogue Box this morning. We know that it's been an interesting experience for every one of us, and we know that it's getting better by the day. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And when we do, don't forget that Blossom Nigeria, we always will believe in the Nigerian dream.